I have a rough idea. So I will be teaching you accordingly. So what I will be doing is, so basically mandalas are made out of uh, two major things. So one is patterns or motifs, like any shapes that we will be repeating, and fillers. So fillers are basically used to give the depth to your mandala, right? And what gives mandala the symmetry. So if I don't, so the third part is the grid. Okay. So for example, why grid is important? So if I am, like drawing a freehand, say, circle, set of concentric circles, and I am trying to divide it without any measurement. So what happens is, at times, the division that you do may or may not be equal. Okay. So some parts will be wider, some parts will be not so wide. So what will happen is basically the end result, the mandala that you make, will not look symmetrical. So that takes away the major part, the major characteristic of this art form, because it will not give a radiant look to the finished artwork. Okay. So it is very important to form this grid. So this is like a skeleton which is just used while creating the mandala, and then we rub it off. So it is just like a baseline that we use. Patterns and motifs are what we use to create the detailing of the mandala. Okay. Coming to pattern. So today I'll just introduce you a few of some common patterns that we do. First one. So this art form basically requires a lot of practice for you to be able to do it, you know, at a pace that you are comfortable with and do it symmetrically. So it requires a lot of patience and it requires a lot of practice. So first motif will be this. Second is like a dome. Okay. Like you may see, similarly, slightly inverted, like this. Third is our favorite mountain drawing that we used to do during when we were kids. Yeah, so Sarah, I'll be coming to the materials that we will be using to create a mandala. I'll give you what all will we use before I start with the grid. Okay, so this is just an introduction of what patterns are generally, just examples of what we use. Okay. And fourth is slightly more pointed. This is curvy and pointed. Okay. So this is something that we will be using more or less. Fillers are basically what we use to create depth to it. Okay. So you have seen a lot of coloring books that come, which are, just mandala is made and you fill colors to it. Fillers are basically used to create intricate mandalas and how you can give detailing to these patterns. So for fillers, what we can generally use is like you can color this motif like in full color. Okay. Second, what I generally use are spirals like these. Okay. Third are lines. So these can be standing lines, these can be sleeping lines, slanting lines. Okay. And fourth is just filling them up with very minute dots. Okay. So these are some of the patterns and fillers that I will try and use in today's mandala session. Okay. Now coming to making the mandala. So I'll start with the kind of supplies that we need. So for today's art, today's work, what I'm using is we'll require a compass, a pen, sorry, a pencil. This can be, I am using a clickable one, but a normal pencil which we sharpen with can also be used, like the HB or anything. But the only important point that we need to keep in mind is that this thing needs to be very sharp. The tip has to be very sharp so that the grid that we make is very fine. So it is not a very, it's not made out of a very blunt pencil which will cause a very thick line for the grid. So we need the grid to be very fine. So that pointed nib is what we require. The first filler, Sukriti, I'll repeat it actually. This is just coloring that whole motif. There's nothing, we just fill it up with color. I'll use these fillers in the mandala so you'll get a better idea. So yeah, so we'll be using compass, a pencil, a ruler, protractor. So I have this complete circle one, but the one which we get in the market generally also, like the half D one, that also works perfectly fine. And for today's one, I'm using a pen, a normal pointed pilot pen, which is 0.5 thickness. There are pens which, depending on what kind of application you are wanting, there are pens that come for mandala art. So the details I'll be sharing during the master course because the time is limited today. But for today, you can use any pen, any ballpoint pen or a gel pen or a pilot pen or a nib like the fountain pen. Any form of ink pen will be fine. And I personally like using a black pen because it kind of defines the whole, the pattern, the design. So it is more bold. So for me, I love making black and white mandalas. I like making colorful mandalas. But the detailing, the fine liners that I use, I prefer it being in black color. So this is the pen that I'll be using for today's class.